It started with something as small as a napkin. A simple white napkin that changed my life. The flight attendant placed it gently on my tray, her hands trembling so badly that I thought she might spill the water she carried. On it, written in rushed ink, were 6 words that made my breath stop. "Pretend you are sick. Get off this plane right now." At first, I stared at her in disbelief. Her eyes weren't irritated. They weren't confused. They were terrified. She leaned in closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "Please," she said, "I'm begging you." Then she walked away, as if nothing had happened. I sat there frozen, staring at the note in my lap, trying to make sense of it. Was this some kind of prank, a misunderstanding, or something far more dangerous? 2 hours later, I got my answer. And I learned that her warning was the only reason I'm still alive today. My name is Isla Warren. I'm 30 years old, and I work as a travel nurse. I've seen death in hospital rooms, in car accidents, in the quiet way people's eyes lose focus when pain wins. I've held trembling hands and whispered comfort to people whose lives ended minutes later. But I never thought I'd come face to face with death on a plane, my own. After 6 months of relentless work, I finally decided to take a break. My mother had recently recovered from heart surgery, and I wanted to surprise her in Boston. She used to tell me that hearing my voice over the phone made her heart heal faster. I smiled thinking about her face when she'd see me walk through the door unannounced. That afternoon at Lax, everything felt peaceful. Children pressed their faces to the windows, business travelers typed furiously, couples held hands. For once, I felt normal. As I boarded the plane, the flight attendants greeted us with their usual rehearsed smiles. But one of them caught my eye. Her name tag read Alyssa, and something about her was different. She wasn't smiling the way others did. She wasn't scanning boarding passes. She was scanning faces. When our eyes met, she hesitated, just for a second. It felt like she recognized me, but I'd never seen her before. I took my seat, 14C, aisle seat, mid-cabin. Across from me sat a man in a black jacket who kept opening the overhead bin, pretending to adjust something. Next to him, a teenage boy clutched his backpack to his chest like his life depended on it. The air inside the cabin wasn't relaxed. It was loaded, like a quiet tension building beneath calm skies. I texted my sister, Chloe. "Boarded the flight. Mom has no idea I'm coming. Get ready to film her reaction." She replied with heart emojis and a reminder to grab her favorite cookies from the bakery. Everything felt normal, until Alyssa walked down the aisle again. She looked calm, mechanical, pretending to check the overhead bins, but her eyes weren't on the luggage. They were on people. She was watching someone, closely. As she reached my row, she leaned over, placed that napkin on my tray, and kept walking. She never looked back, never smiled. I unfolded it and read the words again. "You're not safe. Pretend you are sick. Get off this plane immediately." My body went cold. I looked around the cabin. Everyone looked normal, laughing, scrolling, talking. No one else seemed to have a note. Why me? I turned my head slightly and caught Alyssa at the end of the aisle. She was standing perfectly still, facing forward, but her eyes were locked on mine. Pure fear. No joke, no confusion. Just fear. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she slipped it to the wrong passenger. Maybe it was meant for someone else. But then she turned slightly, just enough for me to see her lips move. "Do it now." The words weren't spoken, but I could read them. I swallowed hard. My pulse hammered in my ears. Every instinct told me to move, but my body refused to listen. That's when I noticed it. The man in the black jacket wasn't nervous anymore. He was focused. His eyes flicked between the cockpit door and Alyssa, like he was waiting for a signal. The teenage boy beside him gripped his backpack tighter, whispering to himself. His lips trembled. "I can't do this. I can't do this." Something was very wrong. The plane began taxiing toward the runway. Once we took off, there'd be no getting off. I felt the napkin burning against my skin. Alyssa appeared again, pretending to check my seatbelt. She leaned close, her voice so soft I barely heard her words. "Do it now. Say you feel faint. If you stay on this flight, you won't land alive." She moved on before I could respond. My heart thundered. I reached for the call button but froze. What if drawing attention made things worse? What if she was wrong? Then a loud thud echoed from the back of the plane. Heads turned. A flight attendant rushed back, pale-faced. The boy with the backpack was shaking uncontrollably, mumbling prayers. The engines roared louder. The plane turned onto the runway. This was it. I looked out the window at the terminal fading into the distance. My hands trembled as I texted Chloe. "Something's wrong. Pray for me." I hit send. And then I stood up. My legs wobbled as I stepped into the aisle. The man in the black jacket turned his head slowly, his expression sharp and cold. Alyssa appeared beside me instantly, steadying me by the arm. To everyone else, it looked like she was helping a sick passenger. But I could feel her grip. It was firm, deliberate. Her voice was calm, but her words chilled me to the bone. "Follow me if you want to live." She guided me toward the front. Loud enough for others to hear, she said, "Ma'am, take deep breaths. We'll get you some water." But then, under her breath, "Don't look back. Your seat wasn't assigned by accident." I sat in the jump seat near the exit, trying not to fall apart. Alyssa pretended to prepare oxygen. Her colleague joined her, face tight with tension. "The person targeting your seat believes you're someone else," she whispered. "If you return to it, they'll act once we're in the air." My blood ran cold. Targeting my seat? How? Why me? Alyssa's colleague gave her a subtle nod. She immediately radioed the cockpit, her voice steady but trembling at the edges. "Requesting emergency return to gate. Medical escalation." The captain hesitated, asked for confirmation. Then Alyssa looked past me toward the back, and her face hardened. Within seconds, the captain's voice filled the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a short delay and will be returning to the gate." Passengers groaned, frustrated, but beneath the complaints I felt the air shift. Certain people weren't annoyed, they were panicking. The man in the black jacket stood, stretching. His eyes darted toward the cockpit, then me. The teenage boy's panic escalated. "I need to get off this plane, please," he shouted. A ripple of confusion spread. Before anyone could react, the man in the black jacket reached into his bag. Alyssa snapped to attention. "Sir, please take your seat," she said loudly. He froze when he saw two men rise quietly from first class, air marshals. They moved swiftly, drawing weapons discreetly as passengers gasped. And just like that, I realized Alyssa wasn't acting alone. There was an entire federal operation unfolding mid-flight, and I had been sitting right in the middle of it. The black-jacketed man smirked, his hand halfway inside his jacket, testing how far he could go. The marshals yelled a command. He stopped. Then chaos erupted. A second man near the emergency exit lunged for the door handle. A flight attendant tried to stop him. He shoved her violently. The teenage boy screamed. "Don't open it. It's not what you think." His voice cracked with desperation, not fear. He knew. The woman in the business suit, who'd been nervously texting, jumped up, shouting, "It's about to activate." Her words froze everyone. Alyssa immediately grabbed the intercom. "Everyone remain seated. Do not touch the overhead compartments." The air marshal reached up and opened the bin above seat 14C, my seat. Inside was a small metal box, wires, a blinking red light. The cabin went silent. I couldn't breathe. Alyssa's voice shook. "It's under 14C, she said. Her seat." That was my seat. My mind flashed back to that morning. I had switched flights last minute to surprise my mom earlier. My original booking was on flight 417. This one, flight 14, had been my spontaneous choice. Someone else was supposed to sit there. A whistleblower, a federal informant. I wasn't the target. I was the mistake. Law enforcement swarmed the cabin. Passengers were evacuated through the rear exit, farthest from the device. As I stood trembling near the exit, Alyssa looked at me, eyes glassy but calm. "It was never about you," she said quietly. "They thought a federal agent would be in your seat. You took their place." Outside, lights flashed red and blue. The runway was lined with tactical vehicles. Federal agents shouted commands as they secured the area. The teenage boy was pulled aside, still crying. "They switched flights," he kept saying. "It wasn't supposed to be today. They switched the target." The woman in the business suit, another undercover operative, was shaking as she whispered to a marshal, "It's remote triggered. Someone on the ground is controlling it." They worked fast. Deactivation teams arrived, using scanners and specialized equipment. Alyssa stood near the open plane door, still in uniform, her face pale but composed. Then the captain stepped out, voice low. "Is it live?" Alyssa nodded. That's when it truly hit me. If she hadn't slipped me that napkin, if I had hesitated even a few minutes, I would have been sitting over a live explosive. A few minutes later, the bomb squad disarmed the device. But before relief could settle in, my phone buzzed in my hand, hundreds of missed calls and texts after reconnecting to Signal. One voicemail from an unknown number. I played it. A distorted male voice whispered, "We know you got off the plane. This isn't over." The blood drained from my face. I looked around the flashing lights, the sirens, the chaos, and realized something terrifying. I wasn't a survivor, not yet. I was a witness. And witnesses have a way of disappearing. That night, I was taken into protective custody. Federal agents told me everything. The men on board were part of a domestic extremist cell. The device had been planted to assassinate a protected government informant. My seat had been reassigned because their inside contact at the airline hadn't updated the manifest fast enough. I was never supposed to be there. But fate put me there anyway. Sometimes I think about Alyssa's trembling hands as she placed that napkin in front of me. How many people would risk everything for a stranger? And then I think about the voice on that voicemail. Cold, controlled, confident. This isn't over. They were right. It was. Because after that day, nothing about my life was the same. The government changed my address, my name, my phone number. They erased my records from public systems. But every time I board a plane now, I see Alyssa's face in my memory, her fear, her courage, and I realize something deeper. Sometimes, the universe saves you not because you're lucky, but because your survival means something. Because maybe, just maybe, your story is meant to expose what others wanted to stay buried. And if you're watching this right now, remember, the smallest act of courage can rewrite destiny. One napkin saved my life. And it might just be the reason you're hearing this story today.